Penguin Random House Audio presents Asylum Hotel by Juliet Blackwell. Read for you by Exy Sands. To Exy Sands, who inspired this novel through her nuanced, tender, loving photography and our shared love of all things abandoned. Prologue. Had she known about the Seabrink curse, she might not have gone. Aubrey Spencer was on the hunt for photographs, not for ghosts. But in all her research, there had been barely a mention of the old Hotel Seabrink, and only a passing reference to a few long-ago tragedies. All Aubrey knew was that the Grand Hotel had been built by the fabulously wealthy T. Jefferson Goffin, who had made his fortune in the unromantic field of salt mining before investing in the quixotic world of movie-making. The Seabrink had been a lure to Hollywood's elite during the golden age of cinema, and its guests included movie stars such as Clark Gable and Judy Garland and Bette Davis. The presence of such celluloid luminaries attracted the wealthy and powerful to the Seabrink to mingle with their idols at glittering parties and dazzling banquets, and to stroll through its extensive walled-in gardens far from the hoi polloi. But it wasn't just the chance to hobnob with the rich and famous that enticed those privileged guests to this remote stretch of the Northern California coast, where the Spanish Gothic extravaganza clung, barnacle-like, to a mountainside overlooking the Pacific Ocean. The Seabrink also held out the promise of improved health, thanks to the natural mineral water that flowed into the large stone baths in the hotel's basement and was piped into every lucky guest's room. The special waters were said to cure everything from rheumatism to pneumonia to what was referred to, unironically, as simply the crazies. As it turned out, statins and antibiotics and mood-altering drugs did a better job of curing whatever ailed a person than the Seabrink's miracle water cure. And as the health of the hotel's founder, T. Jefferson Goffin, began to fail, he was beset by scandal, and his fortune dwindled. Younger movie stars began opting for weekends in Vegas and Acapulco over remote mountain resorts, and the wealthy and powerful soon followed. When the hotel's storied guests did not return, the live-in staff began to look for work elsewhere, and the once fine Hotel Seabrink closed its doors. It was soon shuttered, forsaken, neglected. But, as with all grand abandoned buildings, that was not the end of the story. Not by a long shot. And Aubrey Spencer, camera in hand, arrived to immortalize the Hotel Seabrink in all its derelict glory. And listen, as I slip along these walls, so often what I hear is hurtful. Perhaps we are all born maniacs. That's what they say I am, but they have never understood me. 1. A rusty, pockmarked, no trespassing sign dangled from the Hotel Seabrink's massive wrought iron gates. It clanged, clang, clanged against the open gates, swaying slightly in the breeze. The mournful sound echoed off the high stone walls surrounding the grounds of the former hotel. Aubrey got out of her car and paused, breathing deeply of the damp mountain air scented with evergreen needles, redwood, and Monterey pine, as well as the distinct but indefinable aroma of the decaying plants that carpeted the forest floor. In the normal course of her life, Aubrey Spencer was a rules follower, sometimes to a fault. But when she was on the hunt for photographs, all bets were off. After another brief moment of hesitation, she slipped through the gates. The Seabrink's once manicured grounds were now choked with weeds and wild plants native to the Northern California coast. The forest was reclaiming its own. Leaves and pine needles blanketed the brick and stone pathways, and ivy had run wild, climbing over the walls and winding itself around lichen-encrusted statuary whose original forms were now left to the imagination. Vibrant ferns dotted old stone benches, and a thick carpeting of moss encased long, empty stone planters. Gravel crunched underfoot as Aubrey walked up the long drive. The grounds were otherwise quiet, the only sounds those of nature. The birds flitting through the trees, and the breeze rustling the oak leaves. A squirrel eyed her from the top of one high stone wall, chattering indignantly at her presence. And 2 hawks, or maybe turkey vultures, glided through the air high overhead. The drive ended in a large loop encircling a massive fountain in front of the hotel's main entrance. The pool was filled with stagnant rainwater, bright green with algae. The fountain's sculpture featured 3 women, their faces distorted in anger and their hair entwined with snakes, attacking a cowering young man as he attempts to flee, his head covered by his muscular arms. "Welcome, one and all, to the Hotel Seabrink," Aubrey murmured to herself. She snapped a few photos of the fountain and gardens, but did not linger. It was the building itself that called to her. Aubrey had first stumbled across a brief reference to the Hotel Seabrink while perusing the musty aisles of her favorite used bookstore in Oakland. In a slim, self-published volume on the history of coastal Northern California, she read, "The famous Hotel Seabrink, tucked into the hills north of Stewart's Point with a spectacular view of the mighty Pacific Ocean, was, from its beginning, mired in scandal and lurid rumor, the pet project of the fabulously wealthy salt miner T. Jefferson Goffin, the lavishly decorated hotel, reminiscent of Hearst Castle, much farther down the coast, was host not only to the Hollywood and financial elite from the 1920s through the 1940s, but also to several mysterious deaths. The most recent known fatalities were of a teenager murdered in the hotel's famed spa baths on her prom night by a security guard who had been hired to protect the abandoned building, and his own subsequent suicide. Perhaps overcome by guilt, he was found hanging in the hotel's main stairwell. That's all it said. Just those 4 tantalizing sentences before the author turned to a discussion of the nearby coastal communities of Stewart's Point, Sea Ranch, and Gualala. Aubrey tried researching the Hotel Seabrink on the internet, but although T. Jefferson Goffin's life was otherwise well documented, she could find only passing references to the actual hotel. Now, she studied the massive building through her camera's viewfinder and took a few shots of the exterior. The hotel was 4 stories tall, built in the Spanish Gothic Revival style, popular during the golden age of Hollywood. There were intricate stucco decorations surrounding the windows and doors, multiple panes of dazzling stained glass, many of them now broken, and 2 soaring towers. A Hearst Castle wannabe, indeed, she thought. Half a dozen shallow stone steps led up to the main entrance, where massive wooden doors hung on black iron hinges. A drawing in smeared yellow chalk marred the dark wood doors. The design was a stylized cross bisected by several crooked lines and circles. At the base of the door was something that looked like a line of salt. Aubrey took photos of each. The metal doorknob was cold and slick in her hand as she tried to turn it. Locked. No surprise there. She went back down the steps and explored the area to the right of the building, where she found the remains of an atrium, half of its glass panels smashed. Moving carefully to avoid the jagged shards at the edge of a low window, she climbed through and slipped inside, glass debris snapping underfoot. A bird's nest was lodged in one corner, atop a caryatid. The floor of the atrium was a now mossy mosaic with an intricate design featuring a symbol surrounded by stylized snakes. Long strands of ivy hung down through the broken sunroof, and still more moss blanketed the frayed remnants of a woven love seat. Its pillows had been shredded, the stuffing no doubt long ago harvested to line the nests of birds and rodents. Aubrey shot photos with abandon, marveling, as always, at how different everything appeared when viewed through the lens of her camera. She often preferred the camera's version of reality, to what she saw with her bare eyes. Was it the addition of boundaries, parameters?
Sample complete. Ready to continue?